Hello, everybody. How are things going? So the purpose of this video is to go through the second learning community activity. I apologize for the weather being so crappy. Usually at this point, Santa Barbara, California is sunny and beautiful, and right now it is rainy and depressing. It's almost like the weather is matching the country's mood. It's so cold that I've had to put on my zombie sweater, as you can tell. I've had this for a really long time. I usually don't wear it around anymore because it has like a hole in the armpit right here. But anyway, I'm wearing it today because I'm working at home and it's cold in here. All right. Anyway, so here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to start by going through each of the three resumes and application letters and talking about some of the things you said and also some of my own thoughts. And then at the very end, Fayon Ao has a series of questions that he wanted to ask. And I thought this would provide a pretty nice like FAQ to sort of end the video with. And so I'm just going to go through each of his questions and answer them. And hopefully some of you will find that information helpful, right? All right, so one thing I noticed is that almost everyone picked one of the application and cover letters. And I think that's a good observation, right? I think all of these documents are pretty good, right? I could see people getting a position or something with any of these documents, right? All of them also can be improved in some ways too, right? And so a lot of the flaws that you're noticing in the other applications that you didn't pick, I think are right on point as well, right? So I was really impressed by how well people did with this exercise, and I thought you were picking out a lot of good things, right? So I'm going to go ahead and I'm basically what I'm going to do is pick the best defender of each of the applications and then talk about like what I think about their views here, right? So Winfield, Brian, Eduardo, Noah, and Tegan said, our group believes that the first person has the strongest of the three applications and is best suited for the position of project manager. Her resume is well organized, functional resume that clearly lists the skills as well as relevant examples along with the dates for their experiences. We believe the person's skills are most aligned with the ones required for the project manager, right? So I think, you know, what they're pointing out here that I think is really smart is they're thinking through the resume and application letter being an argument, right? And so they're thinking through the position the person's applying for and whether they make the best possible argument for that, right? And I think in some respects, so let's go ahead and look at it now. I think in some respects, I think they're making a good case, right? So this is a management position. It's not purely just an engineering position. There's also some leadership skills that need to be involved, right? And the person here smartly, you know, realized that their main teamwork or leadership experiences came from their track and field experience, and they highlighted that throughout a lot of the document, right? So you see that in the resume section here, and you also see it in the cover letter as well, right? But there are some issues with this document, and in fact, I'm gonna go ahead and say I think in a lot of respects this is maybe the weakest of the group, although there's certainly some things to like about it. And so I want to just point some of those things out, right? So one of the things is they actually didn't do a functional resume here. They actually went for a traditional chronological resume, right? And in this particular case, you can really see the weakness of that approach for this particular student, right? And that's because a lot of their work experiences are in things that just aren't relevant for the position that they're applying for, right? So they're talking here customer service representative, childcare. This is the kind of stuff that you can list at the end of the resume. People get a basic idea of what those positions entailed, right? And there really isn't any like necessity to go into those experiences in any more detail, right? And the result of that, especially on the resume, is the stuff that is perhaps of relevance to the position is kind of buried here at the bottom, right? Which the experiences that seem most important here are the track and field experience, Society of Women Engineers. That stuff maybe in this case they should talk about a little bit more than they do, and they chose not to do that here, right? Also, there's like other things. There are things that are kind of put in strange places and are kind of buried. Like, for example, the skills section. You're going to notice the skills section in the upper right-hand corner over here is kind of difficult to see, and you really have to look for it. And it kind of would have been nice to have it in its own section in a lot of ways, right? And then there's no listing of coursework, right? And especially seeing how there isn't a lot of other engineering technical experience to bring to the table here. a description of the coursework might have been kind of helpful, so people have a vague idea of like what's going on, right? And so there's some little things of the resume that I think bother me. I don't think the resume is making the best argument they could. I think they do a little bit better a job with the cover letter, especially like the third paragraph here. I think is okay, right? Although I read what some people said that they felt like it was a little too abstract, and I suppose that's fair, right? But the second paragraph I really want to point out as being kind of problematic, especially this first sentence, right? As a committed student, I have driven for excellence. And then you'll notice that this topic sentence just sort of goes on forever in a lot of ways. And it's covering so many different things, it's pretty unclear what the person wants to fully refer to, right? And so I think there's some work that she could do with the cover letter to make it more effective as well, right? And then people notice some smaller things too, like there's probably more words that are necessary here at the bottom. The complete sentences under organization are kind of problematic. There's various other sort of little things to look at as well, right? So the first one, it's not terrible, right? I definitely could see a person getting a job with this resume and cover letter, right? But it could use some work. There are some things that definitely could be done to improve it, right? Now the second one, the second person was picked by a number of people too, right? And this is let me go ahead and pull up I'm looking on the other screen over here, like you guys can see it. I have 3 monitors, by the way. Anyway, Stephen and Jay Wan and Jorge and Edgar say, we think the second resume was the most effective of the 3 in conveying the applicant's abilities. While its formatting could have used clear organization, the points underneath each section and experience and skills were very detailed. In comparison, the applicants of the first and third resumes were not specific in their experiences, right? And I think, they're right in the sense that if you were going to pick a resume that's the strongest of the group, I definitely feel like this is the strongest resume, without question, right? There are a few things to like about it. First, the person did a functional resume in this case, or a skills resume, and the approach really works out well for them, right? So it allows them they don't have a lot of work experience, it allows them to draw from all their experiences to help justify the points that they make, right? I'm not sure if I necessarily agree with the problems of it being difficult to read that some people noted. I think for the most part it's pretty easy to see. Although the one thing that really easy to scan, the one thing I think they could have done that might have helped a little bit is to offer bullet points, right? And so occasionally it causes problems, especially with like the spearheaded one here. I think if they had provided some bullet points, it would have been clearer what the person was trying to say here. And then occasionally it's a little wordier than it needs to be, right? So founded my high school's first student organization for animal awareness and enthusiasm. Like, I'm not sure what the enthusiasm adds there, right? And then there's the spelling error here. So spirited several communal outreach projects include organization, Vietnamese, New Year's parade, march as... Yeah, there's something weird going on with that second bullet point that needs to be resolved there, right? So occasionally there's some spelling errors, but for the most part, I like this. I think it's nice and specific with the bullet points, right? I think they have good verbs at the beginning of the verb phrases that cue us into exactly what skill they're trying to emphasize. So instructed, created, spearheaded, so on and so forth. And so I really think there's a lot to like about it. All right, and with the third one, I think the third resume is also really good, but there's some issues. The main thing with the third resume is I think there's some issues with the white space throughout. And I think part of it is I kind of think it's kind of bizarre, the sort of design experience and volunteer experience and how they're placed in these separate sections here. And I think really probably collapsing these sections together into like a related experience section, I think probably would have been the best approach to take here. And then there's like a lot of white space up here and a lot down here as well that I think's a little problematic. So I think those are things that they needed to think about. There's some issues with the design here, I think, more than anything else. And like some people said, the volunteer experience section here probably could use a little fleshing out a little bit. But the main thing that I think is working out well with this document is the cover letter, right, or the application letter. I think the application letter is great, and Yafan, I think they were the ones that probably got closest to the way I would evaluate it, saying the second resume was the best and the third application letter is the best. And they say what is appealing about the third letter is the straightforward description, structure, and descriptions of students' relevant experience. The introduction gets right to the point. The student confidently describes his target position and relevant experiences, right? I think that they're exactly right here. They're very direct. You can notice these topic sentences make it easy to scan. So I was a key contributor to the production team, right? During my first years, I built a reputation as a person who's dedicated not only to his success, but in the mutual success of his peers, right? And then he provides good evidence throughout the document to support those positions. The only thing I might have wanted to know a little bit better about this third one is maybe he did talk about like the result of his part of the Chemi car team project, but I almost wanted to know like what the result. I mean, I'm assuming this is like he says it's a competition, so I'd like to know like, did you guys win the competition? What place did you fit or get? You know, that sort of thing. I think some of that information could have been much better, right? But this person, I think, is doing the best job with the storytelling aspect of the application letter, right? So if you're looking for a model, I think the third one has the best application letter, and the second one has the best resume, right? Now, Fion has some questions, and I'm just going to go through these real quick, just in case these are things people want to clear it up. So his first question is, does the education section need the high school name, coursework, and GPA, right? And my answer to that is I think at this point, most of you should leave off the coursework and GPA. I don't think it's really necessary to describe that anymore, right? Whether you include the high school name is really up to you in a lot of respects. I think the high school name is only important if you can expect people at the position you're applying to know what the high school is, right? So if you went to a prestigious high school or one from a local company, I think that's a good reason to do that, right? The second question is, are high school awards and achievements necessary? I really think that depends on the situation. I think if it's something you've done a lot of work to achieve, I definitely think including high school awards could be useful, right? But things like, Dean's List or you made the honors roll or whatever, that stuff's all indicated by GPA, right? And especially, at this point, I'm not sure if any of that stuff is really that important for a lot of you, right? So be careful about that. I don't think just throwing a bunch of awards onto your document is necessarily a useful strategy, right? The course description has things like physics, chemistry, not specified, like thermochem, magnetism, physics, so on and so forth. I do think you should include specific course names, right? So if you're talking about physics, it should be Introduction to Physics, or be exactly what kind of physics course that you took, right? Because the course names are going to cue the person in to the skills in question, right? The club like IEE club should be put in involvement instead of education. Yeah, I think so, right? I think that's probably the better place for it. Does track and field should be included so much in the application for project manager? I think that really just depends on what experiences you have to draw from, right? If you don't have a whole lot of engineering-specific experiences, right, then those kinds of leadership skills that you developed there might actually be useful for, like, applying for an internship or something like that, right? But I think as this person moves along and they get more experience, they're eventually going to drop that stuff off their document, right? And they say, in the final paragraph, in order to exhibit my promising abilities, right? I think with a statement like that, I think the danger there is you don't want to say too much. You don't want to praise yourself too much in a document using this sort of abstract statements like, in order to exhibit my promising abilities, right? Because you want them to make those decisions, right? Your goal is just to display the stuff that you've done. It's their job to make decisions about it, right? So I think you want to be very careful about that kind of humble, braggy language that you see here, right? And the graduation date is very necessary in the first paragraph. Sure, right? I think that in the first paragraph of your application letter, you should have a statement that says something along the lines of, um, um, you should have a statement like, I expect to graduate with a degree in mechanical engineering in 2023, and I have 1 year's worth of experience in a engineering internship at whatever company, right? So something along those lines. So I hope all this helped. I'm looking forward to reading your resumes sometime next week, and good luck with the peer revision process.